this song is so weird that it was like the single, because the whole time I was like, man, this song's lazy. I'm just following the guitar. It's like not that interesting. But it was like in that moment, it clicked. Ethan starts playing, Johnny starts doing the bass, and then we wrote the whole song in like 30 minutes or whatever. We got the whole thing, we fit that in, put in the old parts, did all this stuff, and then out of nowhere, Nick just writes this breakdown that we like.
Yeah,
that was totally out of left field, just crazy. And we finished the song. We were pretty excited about it. It was really cool. It was really weird. We showed it to Will the next day, and he was like, cool, let's track it.
Autopsy, we slice, we build until the darkness raw and real.
And today I'm joined with Brent from Greyhaven, and we will be doing a audio autopsy of the Empty Black. And just Brent, man, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, thanks for having me.
Let's dive into Empty Black with this one thing, man. Like, Greyhaven is a hidden gem. Like, it's such a like, there's no Wikipedia page. Like, there's no, like, there's very little out there. But like, it's like the ultimate if you know band.
Yeah.
Because all the videos I've watched, every comment, unless you guys are deleting comments, but every comment is like, my favorite band. But like, if you're in, you're in. And I'm just like, why are we not broken through to this next step yet, man? Because it's wild, the fan reaction to the band.
It's always kind of been a version of that. Like, even when we started, it was like we'd come from a band that was like 5 of us, and we ended up parting ways with the singer and starting this band. And right off the jump, we were kind of like, because that band had a little bit of traction. We were terrible, but we had a reputation for like the shows being packed and fun and kind of wild and stuff. So we carried that over with this. But it didn't grow very quick, you know? And then like we put the record out and went on our first tour and came back and then had some member stuff and kind of sat for a minute. There's a lot of starts and stops, which I think is kind of the reason that it never fully like bubbled out. But I've always kind of felt that way. The people that were paying attention were like really, really about it, which I think has been kind of the driving force to keep doing it. Cause it's like, well, it's not a lot, but it's very concentrated and very passionate. And like, as long as that's still going, then we'll still go. But yeah, it is kind of always been like that. A very slow burn.
This was one band, and I know I'm wearing the shirt. I know you did change, but I was just like, this band needs like one Deftones store. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because
Deftones, if you're listening,
right? Staff, give them. But from what they listen to and what they're fans of and kind of what they take out, and I think in a broader stretch, I think the Deftones fans would probably eat this up too. It's like this sounds like we need like one. Well, they got a new album coming out, so maybe
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed on that one. Because I mean, you guys are crushing on tours too. I mean, you just got done with Better Lovers, and like that. I mean, that's crushing. And then you've got Protest the Hero coming up, Devil Wears Prada coming up. I mean, it's like everything I've seen. I'm like, what are we missing?
I think the recipe's finally in place, honestly. For a while, it's always kind of been like I said, these kind of stops and starts. We put our first record, had a couple member things. It was like 4 years till Empty Black ends up coming out. Then we're working on a record pretty quickly after that, but then it took a minute. COVID obviously put a big stop, so it's another 4 years in between the next release. And then we had we just switched labels to Solid State, which has been awesome, and the new EP and stuff. But I think it needed to have where everything is right now in place, because it seems like the game plan, and talking to the our team and like the label and everything, is like, let's get this EP out, let's try to get on tour, and then hopefully the roller coaster can start taking off, and it's worked. But we haven't had all of these like right things in place, I think, until right now. So I'm excited about where the band's at right now, because like I'm really proud of the EP. This tour we just went on with Better Lovers was insane. Like so much fun. Like kind of knew everybody on the tour already from previous tours, and obviously big fans of Every Time I Die and Dillinger. So and Will Putney's our producer. So like,
oh nice,
watching that band every night was a treat. But our sets in particular were so much fun, and it was like there's a lot of attention on the EP and stuff right now. So from that tour, we got these next two, and we just try to keep doing it now. It's 10 years in, but it's finally feels like it's kickstarting a little bit, which is nice.
Nice. Well, let's dive into Empty Black. Not a lot on the actual like production, things like that online. So where was it recorded? Who produced it? All that good stuff.
Yeah. So Will Putney.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story because we had our first record that we kind of like recorded with a buddy back home, Jordan Haynes, shout out. And like I said, we did that first tour and had some kind of member change stuff, and we were trying to search for a home for the band. Like our manager, Tom, had kind of gotten in touch with us, and we started working with him, and he was pitching a bunch of stuff for a while. Like I was telling you before we started about that Roadrunner story and all that. So nothing was really working out, but Will had heard the first record, and I have no idea why he wanted to take a chance on us, but that Empty Black kind of came about purely because Will Putney was like, oh, tell, so-and-so I'll do the record, and if I'll do the record, then they'll work with the band.
Right.
So we got signed with Equal Vision and Graphic Nature, and Will picked up to do the record. And, Will at that time had done a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a big deal. So we were really, really nervous about going up there because we'd only ever recorded with Jordan back home, kind of a home studio type thing. Never been in like a studio of that caliber or have a producer at all, really. So we had been working on these songs for a long time anyway, but like months leading up to that, we were like really trying to hone in on these songs and go up there. But we spent a month up in Jersey with him.
How was he as a producer? Was he coming to you like, hey, we need a stronger chorus, hey, we need a stronger this, stronger that, or was there much change to what you guys brought him?
There wasn't a ton, and we had over prepared. We kind of tried to do that because we know, especially now, 3 projects in with him, kind of how it goes. But there's a version of that. Yeah, we'll bring in like 15-ish ideas, pretty fledged out songs, pretty much done. Those Empty Black were a lot more finished because we had no idea, like changes weren't even remotely in our mind. We were like, this is it. This is exactly how it's going to be. And honestly, I had written like maybe 10 songs worth of vocals, and there was like 5 or so that were kind of in the air. And by the time we were going through the pre-pro kind of process, we had whittled it down to the 10. So, but 5 of the ones that I had vocals on were scrapped. So it was like I had to go back to the drawing board on lyrics. But yeah, he kind of has this process that I really enjoy where we'll be in a room, everybody's mic'd up, and it's like basically just a mic'd band practice, and we'll go through the songs, just play the songs. And then, yeah, he just kind of points out like, hey, this part is really cool. Why does it only happen one time? Or like this song has a chorus. Why does it only happen once? Or the song has really cool parts, but no chorus. And maybe we could sneak one in there. But it's like loose suggestions. And then he kind of, at least for Empty Black in particular, we had this big live room that was like all to us at all hours of the day. So we would do a whole day of like notes, and then he would leave and be like, all right, your homework for the night is to, take a look at these 2 songs. We're going to record those tomorrow. And so we would be there like beating our heads against the wall till like 1 a.m, just trying to figure out these parts. And then the next day kind of fine tune and start tracking. But it's more so suggestions. He's just like, you do whatever you want. Whatever you come up with is, that's your stamp. But I would suggest maybe looking at that or looking at this.
Going to a home studio, one take, and if it sounds good, then we're moving on to the next song. So yeah. Will was a little bit more like, let's try that again. Let's do it. Oh, yeah. Like that type of stuff. So that must be a lot different, at the time for you guys.
Yeah. And like Jordan would work that way too, to a degree, but it was definitely just a level of like Will's ear, obviously, is just a little different than Jordan's. And yeah, and it was also really cool to have the arsenal of like amps and stuff to look through. They spent a lot of time I think we spent a whole day maybe dialing in tones and stuff just for certain stuff. And then certain songs have different things on them, so it's like another couple hours of like all these combinations of things to do. So we were honestly kind of like more so them because I had to focus on lyric writing so much. But it was like kind of like a kid in a candy store, just being like, I never thought I could touch half this stuff, you know?
Yeah. When I interviewed Will Putney, he was in his there was a wall of heads behind him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying so yeah, that looks insane.
It looks crazy. Yeah, that room is awesome. Yeah, you go in there and you're like, what? Like, it's just perfect. It's like the perfect recording room. It's just massive, this giant screen, all these amps behind you.
Let's dive into the record, man. Track 1, Sweet Machine.
So that one, it was like one of the earlier ones we had written for the record, and I don't think really much changed on that at all. Like, it was pretty. There might be some transition things, but it was pretty fleshed out. But with that song, I don't know if I should I guess just talk about lyrics.
Yeah, I've got it written down. I'm like the gods and gun stuff. I mean, that sounds very much like Kentucky.
Yeah,
you know. So I was like, is this a government song? Is this specifically Kentucky? Like, what's going on here?
Well, I think at the time, like I had just gotten out of college, and just life in general was a little crazy at the time. And when you're in college, you kind of start getting privy to politics, and I think around that time was the Bernie Sanders whole thing, Hillary, Trump, like that whole thing was kind of just getting started. And I took, was paying attention to it, going to college and learning all these things, kind of getting pissed off about things. I had a vague understanding of stuff growing up, but like it definitely doubled down around that time. And I had a lot of anxiety about all that. I got a little too invested, I think. It was just becoming like all I really thought about, and then everything else I also had going on personally. That whole record is basically just an amalgamation of just like anxiety, like outer world, like political state of the world anxiety, like personal anxiety, relationship anxiety. I had just gone through like surgery, health stuff, and so it was all kind of at once. But that song in particular was just kind of like I was really fixated on like kind of how our country is such a war machine, and people have a lot to say about it, either for it or against it. But the reality is most of us just kind of sit at home and talk about it.
Right.
So you can easily just be removed if you want, which is kind of where the chorus comes from. It's just like all this destruction, all this like crazy stuff is happening, but you can just like zip out and be removed from it if you want to. And that's like more so stated even as a fact, instead of like condemning you for being removed or like telling you to like take a step back. Sometimes it kind of lives in the middle of that space. That's wild. I haven't really thought about that song in a minute, but I know I think it connects with people in a way because we're all aware, we all live it, we're all confronted with it, but people deal with it differently, different ways. And yeah, it was kind of a fuck you to the Republican ideas at the time. I was definitely just like, God-fearing, gun-loving ideas. Were seeing a lot of those on Facebook at the time.
Says that, man. When was this album was written in like what?
We wrote it between 2016 to late 2017. And it
came out in 2018.
Came out in 2018, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is one of the newer audio autopsies I've done. I mean, most of them are like 20-year anniversaries or 30-year anniversaries type stuff. So yeah, we're definitely in much more of a more current times with a lot of this stuff. When it comes to your lyrics, listening to the album a few times, just diving into it, and then diving into like actual lyrics and like your phrasing and like just the way that you write. Is this a lot? Like, do you write and then you add it to the music, or do you listen to the music and write to the music? Like, because it almost sounds like. It's not in a bad way, but it sounds like poetry. It sounds like you write out all, write out your thoughts, and then you apply it to the music and kind of weave it in there, man. It's very well done.
Thank you. It's a little bit of both. Like I'm constantly writing like a few lines here and there. I'm usually only good for like a couple blocks at a time. But I'm kind of always doing that in the phone. Like I have my notes app still has lyrics from like 2015 on it. Like
friends, you're like,
yeah, it's crazy. On it for the last record, actually, I compiled them all into like a master document of lyrics. so I was like sifting through some of those, and yeah, every once in a while you're like, yeesh. I'm glad that didn't get used. But I'm kind of always doing that. And then when the song's fleshed out, usually some of it will kind of come naturally upon like the first couple listens of the song. And like there's like a phrasing or a cadence or something that'll come up. And like we practice in a room together. So whenever they can play through the song all the way, I'll usually try and like riff a couple ideas just at practice. And that's how like the chorus kind of came to be. It was just like some of those words were popping up. That melody was kind of popping up. So it's a little bit of both. Okay. You know, it's like I'll just take the building blocks of whatever was sort of happening at practice, and then if there was anything sort of happening in the notebook, mesh those together, and then like constantly rough draft it and flesh it out.
They come with you with pretty fully formed music. Do they ever give it to you, and you come back and they're like, "Oh, we thought that was going to be the verse, and we thought that was going to be the chorus part."
Yeah,
and you're like, "No, that's not what I heard."
Yeah, actually, that does happen a lot. Because I mean, I'll be there from the the genesis of the riff. Like we'll be there, and Nick will like, I have a riff, and then I'll kind of watch it build, and then sometimes they'll be talking about parts, and they're like, "Well, this will be the verse," and I'm like, "Oh, that's a pretty hooky verse." Like, but it just depends, because I can also, if that is how they're like thinking about it to get the song across, I'll keep that in mind as I'm listening, because maybe the weirder disjointed thing after the really melodic thing that could be the chorus It just depends on how I want to tackle it. But after a couple run-throughs, if I'm pretty like, that's a better chorus than it is a verse, or a better verse than it is a chorus, which actually more often than not happens. There's like a part that's like, this is the chorus. I'm like, that should be a verse. It's really cool as a verse. But it just depends.
Up next, Blemish.
Yeah, so that's just one big ball of anxiety. A whole song is just like, I wanted to paint a picture. I wanted you to be able to look at, like, if it was a photo, it would be like, that makes me uncomfortable. Like that was kind of the whole goal of that song. It's really weird when I have to talk about lyrics, because I write them in such a fever, which that was not on purpose. I didn't do that on purpose. But I do write them in such like a, just kind of, I'm stuck in a moment, and especially record time where I'm fine tuning everything. I have to figure out like one of the big notes that Will gave me when we were going over the lyrics to this, because he scared the shit out of me. Like the first week we were there, he was like, "Do you have lyrics?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Print them out and give them to me." I'm like, "No." They're not done. Like, right. But we would sit and kind of go through them. And one of the things he pointed out to me, he was just like, you have all these ideas and it's cool, but you shift like what the song is about, or like the perspective of the song, like halfway through, or like 2 or 3 times. And he's like, I feel like you should go through these and sing the song from one perspective. Like if it's keep it from that perspective and try to tie these ideas together. And I'd never had anyone like go through my words like that and like pick them apart like that. And it was super helpful, because now I kind of have like a way to think about lyrics. But before, I was just kind of throwing things at the wall, because I came from a guitar player and just had to sing like some choruses, so I'm used to doing vocals in a couple second blocks and stuff, and tagging some lines and not really having to worry about a full song. And in our band prior, actually the verses and the choruses didn't have to have anything to do with each other. It's just very Dance Gavin Dance style. Right. Like, who cares what either one is saying? Didn't work, but that's why we're here. Yeah, so trying to do full songs that way. The first record kind of has a little bit of that. So then this one, it was shown to me like, hey, fix this. So with that song, there was a lot of this like disjointed stuff going on, but at the end of the day, I just wanted it to feel like anxiety. I was like, that I'm roiling with this constantly, and I just want to have a song. The music already does it. The music's so frantic and weird that that was the whole goal for that. It was just like, I wanted you to listen to it and be like, oh, that guy's anxious.
I like the wrote down, I was like, you're showing off the soul with the riverbed stuff, man.
Yeah.
Just like when it hits, because it's so chaotic and it's so just all over the place. And then you hit it with that, throwing stones in the riverbed or whatever. I'm just like, geez, like it just kind of swells right up to that moment.
Yeah.
And like, it's such a good sing along.
That was that was kind of an artifact from an older thing we were doing. We had that part, and there might have even been another song that we were working on, like before Nick and Ethan even joined, that I had that line, just that idea of this whole riverbed stone kind of like thing. And we did, it came late. I think it came in the studio, actually. I was trying to figure out what to do over that part, and that thing kind of crept up, and it just fit so perfectly. And it kind of is a left turn in the song as far as lyrically. It kind of feels a little bit out of nowhere, but at the same time, it's like, to me, it was like, well, that's perfect, because anxiety comes in these crazy waves, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. And this is like the one sort of weird, not really calming part, but like it kind of brings you to the next part, and it just kind of fit. It just kind of fit in there nicely.
Next up is Echo and Dust Part 1.
So this, I love this song. This is the best example of Will going, do your homework, see you tomorrow. Because we had this song totally finished, and he was listening to it. He was just like, yeah, this part's cool. You don't bring it back at all. I think you should turn it into like something else. This part's cool. It basically was just like, there's something here, but like, it's not where it should be right now. And he's like, and I don't really know what to tell you to do, but work on that song tonight. And he left. So we're all sitting there in the live room. It's late, and I just remember Nick sitting there with his guitar and just being like, we have to come up with this crazy thing, like this song, and he's playing all these things. We're all kind of staring at it, which he loves, absolutely loves just staring at him while he's trying to write. And nothing is happening. I mean, we were sitting there for like a good hour or so, 2 hours. Nothing really interesting is happening. And Ethan goes to take a smoke break. I think Johnny's like about done and wants to go downstairs and play Mario or whatever. It's like, we were pretty much going to call it, but nothing, like we didn't do our homework. It wasn't done at all, like not even a little bit done. And Nick starts playing that riff, like the opening riff to the song. And I just kind of look over at him, and he's playing it. He's like, I don't know, it's probably stupid. I'm just thinking I should probably take a break. And I was like, well, will you just do that one more time? And Ethan and Johnny were back upstairs, like just, behind the bass and drums. And he starts doing it. I was like, you do it again. Starts doing it. And I started humming that kind of thing, which is really just following the guitar too, which is really funny. Cause like, I feel like this song is so weird that it was like the single, because the whole time I was like, man, this song's lazy. I'm just following the guitar. It's like, not that interesting. But it was like in that moment, it clicked, and like Ethan starts playing, Johnny starts doing the bass. And then we wrote the whole song in like 20 minutes, I think, like 30 minutes or whatever. We got the whole thing. We fit that in, put in the old parts, did all this stuff. And then out of nowhere, Nick just writes this breakdown that we like, that was totally out of left field, just crazy. And we finished the song. We were pretty excited about it. It was really cool. It was really weird. And we showed it to Will the next day, and he was like, cool, let's track it. So that's like the music part of it. But it was like literally final hour, like, I don't even know what to do. We had nothing. We had maybe one riff of that old song is still in that song. And then when it came time to do the lyrics for it, I actually got really excited about it, because there was a song at the end of the record, the Echo and Dust Part 2. I had already had some stuff for that lyrically, and I was struggling to fit all of the ideas from that song into one song. And it just clicked, and I was like, I can turn it into two. It perfectly bookends like this thing I'm trying to get across. And was like a kind of break up these two, because there's also a vague similarity musically in the two.
Yeah.
Where I was like, instead of trying to hide that, we should capitalize on it and make it a like kind of a dual thing. And it worked out really well. But I remember even at the end doing that last breakdown, and I tried, I don't know, like 20 different things, and Will was like, I'm not loving this. And I was like, yeah, me either. And he was like, well, do you want to take a break? And I think I was like, I have this one idea, but it's kind of stupid. And I did the thing that's on the record, and he was like, that's not stupid at all. Do that. But like, I always get really self-conscious if I'm following the guitar at all, because I feel like it's kind of like a lazy thing to do.
Yeah.
But sometimes it kind of goes back to the new metal thing we were talking about earlier. Just service the song. It just needs to service the song the right way. And that part just worked. And now I love it. Like, I think it's really fun, and people talked about that part a lot. But at first I was like, that's so silly.
Yeah, my notes is just like, I mean, this song is just like Earworm City. Like every time it comes on, I'm just like, it just right into it. The drums and the kind of the intro verse, whatever, he's just like going. I'm like, I was like, you probably could have just did a simple tom pattern, but he doesn't wait for it, man. He's like, I'm just gonna do this, and that kind of takes me to now I knowing Will Putney did this makes a lot more sense. But I mean, the drums on the entire album sound amazing.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah. I think Ethan was using like the Dave. They kept calling it the Dave Grohl kit when we were up there. It's really cool being up there and watching the raw drum sounds, because like obviously there's production and they do all the things that they do to the grid and all that kind of stuff. But just being in that room and just hearing him beating the shit out of the drums is so. I'm usually in there with him. Like, it's just kind of funny. I was watching him play and trying to write lyrics on the drums. Most people don't want to be in that room while that's going on, but I don't know. I find it weirdly, like it weirdly works.
Oh yeah. There's a video for this one. So what do you remember from the video shoot?
It's very cold.
Yeah. Where do you know where you did it?
Very, very, very cold. I actually don't remember exactly. Somewhere in Indiana. Ethan's stepdad, Lincoln, his buddy had a barn that he would let us use for it. And I think it was maybe January. Yeah, February, January, something like that. It was very, very, very cold. I remember we got heaters, and we would literally have to do a take, go warm up next to the heater, go do a take, and then go warm up next to the heater. We were there all night, and we had to, like, move all the stuff out of the way, get the thing set up to where we could do the video, and then have to move everything back when it was done. So, I mean, it was a labor of love for sure. But it was really cool because it was the first time we really got to do a video for anything before. We did it with our buddy Anthony. Shout out Nick from Stray. He did our first like three videos. But yeah, it was cool. But it was just, a performance video in a barn. It was classic metal video, really. But it was really, really rewarding to do. I remember we were seeing shots from it, and we were like, my God, this is a real music video.
We're doing it, guys. Before we go any further, man, the one thing I've noticed about kind of this era of the band and like current era of the band, you guys had some hair back then, man. It was like everybody had just like this massive long hair, and then like, I guess, I don't know if COVID happened and you guys were all like, going to supercuts or whatever, man. It kind of popped out on the other side with some suave haircuts.
Yeah, it was actually kind of funny. In the first iteration of the band, the joke was, you can join, but you can't cut your hair. Like, that was like a rule. And also, I think just everybody in Louisville at the time, like, it was kind of just like the thing. Like, we would go to shows and everybody had hair like down to here. It was just like a thing that had obviously been going on for, a year or two, at the very least. But I don't know, it was just like a thing. And we kept getting comments about it too. Like, it was always a thing with like the band, so much hair. And I think we just kind of all loved that too. It just kind of seemed fun, and it looks cool. Long hair looks great on stage. So you're just flinging around. Mm-hmm. Just doesn't matter what you're doing. It's great. But when you have four of them, that's all down here. It's like, it kind of pushed even though we don't sound really like it at all, but there's definitely some influences. But like the flannel shirts and the really long hair, it was like we always kept getting this like grunge thing mixed into what we were doing, which personally I love. That's my favorite thing. And we just kind of, I think, rode that too, because it worked with kind of differentiating ourselves a bit from some of the other like metalcore bands, where it was just like a lot of, which we were still doing, rocking skinny jeans and stuff, but like it was always like really tight shirts, really tight pants, really, certain kind of cut, this and that. And we kind of looked homeless all the time, like just ripped jeans. My flannels were always destroyed.
Yeah.
Literally. And then, it just kind of fit this like grimy kind of aesthetic that we were kind of riding for a bit too. I think it worked with the music because like it's uncomfortable. It's really dissonant. There's melody in it, but like it's so dissonant the entire time too that there shouldn't be any melody in it. But I don't know. We just kind of liked the pairing. It is where we were too. We were literally sleeping in the van, sleeping on the couch, sleeping on floors, just waking up hungover every day, going and playing rock shows. Like that was the life.
Trying to find a hair tie.
Right. Yeah.
Who's stopping at Sally's to get the bag of hair ties? All right. Up next on the record, Mortality Rate.
Yeah. That's another one that was pretty just like, it's funny to me now too, because like I didn't know shit about politics really. I was just I was having such an emotional response to it at the time, and that's kind of coming from that too. It was like I kind of took a more of the religious kind of side of my frustrations out on that one, and I kind of wanted it to just going to be funny. I wanted to just kind of paint this picture of people being kind of judgmental and asking kind of like why. There's a line in that song about like there's a hole in my chest where great sorrow was born, and it's very literal. But like one of the things I think that was frustrating for me at the time is like I was like really dealing with my mortality. It was kind of where the name came from, and I had a lot of like what to do with that, and I was thinking about religion a little bit. I never grew up super religious. My family wasn't super religious at all, and I didn't have any issues with it. But like facing that question, I was just kind of like, is that worth looking into at all? And then it kind of came with no. And I don't know. It's just kind of bore around that whole thing too. I don't know. That one's weird to talk about too, because there's like lines in it that are important to me, and then like I feel connected to, and then there's a lot of stuff that was just like kind of servicing the rest. So like it's hard to kind of pinpoint exactly what I was trying to say with that one. There's a little bit of that on this record where I go, there's a wave where I can tell you exactly what that means, and then there's a lot of surrounding stuff that just kind of services the feeling that it's like, I don't know, it changes every time I read it. Like, and that happens with a lot of my lyrics, to be honest. Like I kind of love that too, because it's like an art piece. Like you do the thing, and then you look at it later, and you're like, I didn't see that thing there before. So I feel like when I do these too, sometimes I like want to go through each line and unpack it, and then I realize like I'm full of shit. I don't know. Like
I'm full of shit.
Like some of them I know, some of them I look at it like Mortality Rate. We haven't played it in a while, so I haven't like sat with that song in a minute. So I'm thinking about it right now, and I think I started with the political. I don't think there's anything political in that song at all. It's just me freaking out. Like,
funny, my couple notes on that one is Mortality Rate is actually funny because that's obviously you did that pre-COVID, and Mortality Rate became such a big like talking point. And then the only line I think I've written down so far is "hole in my chest where the great sorrow was born," because that's such a like when you're diving into the lyrics and the way that you write, like you said, there are certain important lines, and then there are also like some supporting lines, and that one is one that when you read it, you're like, God, I know what that means.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have put it that way, but I know exactly what he means right there.
As we're talking about it right now, I'm starting to like maybe more of kind of the feeling around that song. And like, there's like that line in there that's like bed full of ice and a garden of thorns and stuff like that. And it's kind of, it's so fun. It's taking me back to like where I was during that. And it's a crazy point in my life, but I was I was kind of self-destructing for real, honestly. I had just had heart surgery, and I knew that it was coming. It was a really weird time to be writing a record. I knew it was happening. It hadn't happened yet. And then post actually recording the record, I was recovering from it. So like some of the lines I wrote before it happened were still, made its way into the record. And then there's a lot of lines that got revised or like added when we were writing to actually in the studio recording the record that were, post, like recovering and all that kind of stuff. But in that whole middle ground, like leading up to the surgery and everything, I was like going off the rails. Like I was with the guys and I was drinking like way too much and just like kind of just really wanted to dissociate from the situation entirely. And I think Mortality Rate's more kind of a comment on that, where like everybody kind of lives and dies in their own, way, and you don't have choices in a lot of stuff. Like this was a thing that kind of just like happened and wasn't anything I could do about it. I couldn't like tell the doctors like, no, my heart's fine. Like it isn't. So that's where we're at. And I was just really I was really struggling with that. And I was kind of, I think probably even justifying like, well, I'm, you only have so much time. So it's like, I'm going to do whatever to deal with that. Unhealthy or not is like kind of live fast, rock and roll kind of thing. There's a little bit of that attitude in that song, but like really jadedly, I think I was like pissed about it because I didn't want to be dealing with it at all, so I think there's a lot of that anger in that. And then obviously the religious stuff that's in there, like it's just more so kind of like a way to talk about it. I like the imagery a lot.
Yeah. The good line is, actually I got 2 lines written down. The good thing I've spent years tucking in my shirt.
Yeah.
I saw it, if I'm reading it correctly, it was kind of like, if you're going to meet the maker kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So kind of, good thing I've spent years. I like that line.
Thank you. I've thought about that line a lot because I wrote it and I really thought it fit the song. And then there's been times where I'm like, is that stupid? And then I think it's perfect. Like it is kind of like I think it's an image thing too. Like I was going through all that stuff and like my really close friends kind of saw maybe the not so glamorous way that I was dealing with stuff, but like in front of everybody else, I was just fine.
Yeah.
I went to work. I got through college. I did all the stuff I was supposed to do. And, like you try to live life presenting yourself the best way that you can, and like everybody know you're fine, everything's fine. And so there's like kind of that like tucking in my shirt thing is just like, well, I'm presenting you a perfectly fine image. Like I'm doing good, I've been doing great. But in the background, I was getting destroyed every night. Like I'm climbing trees and I don't know, jumping over shit. Like just really reckless stuff. Which not that that's reckless, but you know what I mean.
Right.
You can climb trees.
You can climb all the trees you want. Just
I'm thinking of one incident in particular where we went out one night and I was hammered and I started just climbing this tree on this corner and all my friends were so nervous. They were like, what are you doing? Stop. And Nick was the one who like kind of told everybody, he's like, he's got surgery in like 2 days. Just let him do that.
Let him climb a tree.
Just let him. He's fine. Let him do that.
Sounds like what's that? Almost Famous. Like when he's on the roof, he's like, "Yeah, golden god," Yeah.
It was my version of that. Just getting 2 branches up and like, all right, I'm getting
down. The Brent movie when it comes out, we'll have that'll be the big scene. Next up, 10 Dogs, Red Heaven.
Yeah. So I think when I started to talk about Mortality Rate, I might have put some of what more so this song's about it at the front of that when I started talking. But that song is another one where I've said this before in other interviews, but it cracks me up to think about the movie Pink Floyd, The Wall. I wanted to write a song that was like, obviously it's not as eloquent and as artistic as that movie is, but like I just really wanted to comment on all of the war mongering shit that we were doing in this country in a song with that being the template. Like I wanted it to look like that in my head. I mean, it doesn't. It's not that good, but that was kind of the thing. I had this line about the dogs coming out your neck, and I basically just wanted to build the whole song around that idea. I thought that was so cool. And I was like, it's perfect. It's like this like war generals like barking out orders to just go kill whoever, and these fucking rabid dogs are flying out of his neck, not his mouth. How cool is that? You know? So it's just a lot of that. It's just I wanted to just kind of write like an anti-war song, but try to be really dramatic in the imagery of it. But I love that song. I just think it's I was proud of some of the imageries in it because it's weird. It's a weird one.
That's some great yas in there too.
Yeah.
And a guitar solo. Not a lot of just straight up guitar solos.
Yeah. We were there's a guitar solo on the first record, and I think because of that one little solo, we were like, we can get away with guitar solos. Let's do that.
And then it took you to track 6 or 7.
Yeah,
on the next
we
album.
like rock and roll. Like,
Yeah, no,
you don't get guitar solos in a lot of like metalcore-ish kind of hardcore-ish kind of stuff at all. So we were like, throw it in there.
Well, there's a lot of like guitar work, but you wouldn't necessarily call it a guitar solo. Like it's like a crazy riff. But like,
do it.
but like in this song, yeah, that's like a full on just guitar solo.
Yeah.
Video for that song. What do you remember from that one?
We rented out. I guess we didn't rent it. We just kind of barged in. But we did it at the Cure Lounge.
Oh, nice.
Like, they had that showroom for a while. We had done a couple shows there, and we liked the room. I don't know if we did it at the same time as Echo, like the same weekend. I think we did. Pretty sure we did. But yeah, it was another one of those things where it was kind of like just trying to get the video done. But I don't remember a ton other than there was this shot that we did that I thought was really cool where we sat up in a circle, like formed a circle of us playing. We were all facing out, and Anthony was just like running around us. And we had this like kind of moving, swirling kind of visual for the performance parts of the song. And I remember that was really cool. And then like I sat in this chair and did all the singing stuff, and I thought that was really cool. We had all these ideas, and I wore this goofy shirt, and then like looking back on it, it's like it's kind of cool. I always think I look a little cooler than I do, and I see videos back and I'm like, oh shit. It's like little, but it was just another one of those videos where you just kind of have to get it done. You know, I remember when we were doing the treatments for it and trying to think of it, I think we did it so fast I didn't have a ton of like really big ideas for it, so we just kind of shot it playing, singing, and then we cut in a bunch of like the war kind of cuts and snippets and stuff like that, and it works. I mean, it's definitely services exactly what the song needed.
You didn't come at it with like, we need some animation, we need like you to do your version of Pink Floyd The Wall like in a video.
Right. Yeah, no, in my mind I'd be like, so have you seen any of the Tool music videos? Like
we need some stop animation.
Yeah, claymation. Let's get some hand-drawn animation, some CGI. Like, but yeah, no, we didn't have the budget for all that.
Next up is White Lighters.
Yeah, so this one's it's kind of interesting. I feel like every record that we do, there's at least one song where I brought them a song, which I'm always writing stuff at home kind of on an acoustic and stuff anyway. I'm really bad at finishing songs, which is why I had to bring it to them, be like, can we do something? But yeah, I'd written this one. I'd actually been toying around with the like guitar and the main chorus of it for a while, probably like years, maybe 2 or 3 before we ended up doing the record. But I don't know, I showed them the song in the basement one day, just kind of fucking around, and they liked it. They wanted to do something with it. And we worked on it a few times, and it never really felt right. And then one day, I think I had changed the phrasing of the guitar. I think at first I was just doing like actual like fat chords, and then I came in with this like picked out thing, and I showed Nick that, and kind of took it and ran with it and turned it into kind of what it is. But yeah, that song is a heavy one for me because I was in a relationship for a while, and all through high school and into college and stuff. It was like my first real big relationship, and that kind of ended terribly, like high school, college level relationships do. But afterwards, she had kind of gotten in a bad way with drugs and stuff, and I was still close with the family, so I was kind of getting updated on all that. Right. Which now that I'm older, I realize like as probably really unhealthy to be connected in that way. But because of that, like there were a couple of events that I went through that were pretty heavy. Like I'd gotten a phone call that she had OD'd at least 2 or 3 times, so I had to go through that grieving kind of process 2 or 3 times. One pretty significant one because I didn't find out that everything was fine until like 2 days later.
Right.
So I had just dealt with that, and that was the first one. So it was a really big kind of traumatic thing. And I was like on the road. I wasn't on tour with Greyhaven, but I had done a couple shows with Left Behind. I was just hanging out with them for like a week, and so like those poor guys had to just like deal with me at like 3 a.m. Like just we were hammered at some guy's house, and so I get a phone call and I'm just destroyed upstairs in some stranger's attic.
Right.
But through all that, yeah, I came home, and when we were doing the record, I had a few lines for it, but like I really did not have this song done because I didn't want to touch it, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then when we went up there to do it, everybody kind of agreed that we should do the song, and the song was cool, and we should definitely record it. And every time people were saying yes to it, I was getting a pit in my stomach. I really did not want to touch this at all. But yeah, I just kind of sat up there in our room and fleshed out the words to kind of the day that we were going to record it. But that's definitely where that song comes from. I was just because I was also like really angry about the fact that she was going through all that, but I also knew, because I was just getting into the whole political thing where I was just like, oh, we're over there in the Middle East harvesting poppy and then drug cartel. Like I was connecting all of these dots, and that's also where a lot of the anger in the record comes in, like governmental stuff and like systematic stuff too. So I was like tying all of this stuff into one big giant kind of thing, this kind of mosaic of shit that I was dealing with. So it fit in the context of the record because there's a lot of other references to that thing throughout it. But yeah, that's definitely where that song comes from.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, as I was writing my notes down, and I'm, on surface level, I mean, I wrote down, I love the atmosphere. And then I was, I love your phrasing, your vocal phrasing in the song. And then I wrote down I was like poking your holes in yourself. And then I was like, wait a minute, the song's called White Lighter. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
You hit me. Yeah. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I have a really hard time, and I'm thankful for this because I like it. It's like fun to do. But like, I don't really like being so direct.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I mean, honestly, too, this is also why I have such a hard time talking about lyrics. Your listeners are going to be like, he's stumbling through all these songs he wrote.
No, this is great.
But it's because I just bury everything. Like I don't want you to hear it and be like, oh, I get it. Like some people get it, but it's not so spelled out. I really like abstract. I really like metaphor. I'm just like trying constantly, and it's probably a defense thing too, honestly, because I don't want to share too much. And so like all these lyrics, they're like deeply personal. I'm just like just covering them in different ways to say stuff. And like I was working on that one, and I had that line of like poking holes in yourself, and I was like, well, that's just exactly how to say that. Like exactly how to say that. It's because it feels too like I was still so young, like that it kind of feels like almost a depressingly innocent way to talk about that. It's like, damn.
What's wild is when I first couple times I read the poking holes in yourself line, I took it as like if you're going, say you're getting ready to go out for the night, and they put an outfit on, and they hate this part or this part, so they're poking holes in their self. And so at first I was like, oh, that's
I love that.
Like, oh, that sucks. And then like when it started, like the math started coming together, I'm like, oh no, that's not it at all. But yeah,
it is wild. Like I'll try to bury things and metaphoricize things so much, but then some of the lines are like so literal.
Yeah, right. And then I'm like, oh, he's talking about when you go out and you put on an outfit and your belly shows or something. But yeah, I mean that's I love that though. And what's funny too is I don't know if this has happened to you, but there's probably someone coming up to you and be like, I get, when you said this line and it meant this, you're like, well, that's not what it meant, but I might start using it.
I love that. Yeah, that's my favorite thing. That happens a lot. People are like, what did you mean by this? I'm like, well, what do you think it meant first? Like, let's start with you. Because I always get really interesting interpretations and stuff. But like, I think that's what I want, like I think that's what lyrics are there for, is for you to like take them in however, like to meet you where you're at, and like you take them in however you want to take them in. If they do something for you, then like that's what they're meant to do. That's another thing that I get, like kind of, I have to remind myself to slow down when I'm talking about my lyrics, because I'm still processing half of them. I'm still trying to figure out exactly where I was and like what that means to me then versus what that means to me now, because it changes always. So like I'm always trying to remember, like I don't have to just destroy every line by I was sitting at this table with this pen. Like it doesn't matter. When you
play live, and do you go back to, like, when you're singing these lyrics now, do you go back to where you were at the time, or are you kind of just, we're on stage, we're on tour, this is the next part? Like, where are you at emotionally?
Yeah. So a lot of times I think it is just like, we're here, we're going to put on a good show. I want to play the songs well, do them justice. And some of these songs I've done so many times that it is kind of like a muscle memory thing. Sometimes it's crazy. I'll like blank in the middle of a song and then come back to, and it's like, I've just done a whole verse, and I wasn't even present for that at all, but my body's still doing all of the right things. But then every once in a while, we'll be doing a song, or certain songs in particular too. We'll do this, but it's like it'll hit you or something. I don't feel like I get stuck where I was, like writing songs, but I'm kind of always evolving with them. So like when we're playing songs, like we haven't played White Lighters really much. We did on a recent tour like last year. But like when we play Ornaments from the last record, that has a lot of weight for me. So when we play that song, like it's kind of hard not to kind of feel it.
Yeah.
Which I love because it's such an emotional song. Like it's what it deserves, is to have you kind of really putting that into it. But it's usually like whatever is making me feeling attached to that song right now, rather than like when I wrote it.
Is there a happy ending to White Lighters? Is the girl still with us? Is she?
Yeah, there's actually a wonderful ending to that song. She's great. She's married, 2 kids, been clean for years. I think she actually works in a facility where she helps other people with those struggles. So I mean, she's doing great. I haven't talked to her in a really long time, but she still communicates with my mom and stuff sometimes. So like every once in a while, see something or hear something. But the last time I talked to her a few years ago, like she's
good.
She's beaming. She's doing great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Next up is Kappa (River Child).
Yeah. I love this song. We don't play it live very much, but I fucking love this song. I was trying to work through the demos at home and trying to figure out, like, just writing, just in a session, just writing session stuff. And I picked this one. And I was like, what do I want to write this song about? And I got so stoned in my room, and I was watching Inuyasha fight scenes.
Okay.
The anime Inuyasha. I was watching these demon fight scenes and stuff, and I was like watching fight scenes in particular. I wasn't watching episodes. I was just like watching because the way it's drawn and the way those like demons and stuff are drawn is so cool. And I literally just wanted to write a song that looked like that anime. Like,
yeah, I think this is the most notes I have. I'm like, what is going on here?
it's such a weird song. It was like just on purpose trying to be this kind of weird thing, but also I think it fits in the context of everything with this just wild dissociation, like just wildly out of nowhere. It has nothing to do with the rest of the record really, but it does, because it's like, well, this is just like, especially after White Lighters, it's like so heavy that the next one is just like, let me really rip you out of that feeling and just focus on something else for a minute. And that is what that song is for me. But it's like the story in it, because there's a loose story of the song. It's like this, I researched kind of what the Kappa River Child like lore, I guess, is. And it's this like, and I'm going to get this wrong, but it's kind of the spirit that lives in the river that lures like, I think it would like lure people's children and like take their children. So like a lot of like grieving parents and stuff, fearing the Kappa River monster demon thing. So I have this kind of story of this person who kind of goes to the edge of the river, kind of gets sucked into this thing. And for some reason, I thought it would be really cool if the water wasn't water when you got in there. It was like this crystallized cave type thing. And the little like demonic energy, these little anime demons or whatever that are down there, like take the people that get lured to the river and turn them into like light bulbs.
Okay.
It's like they take their light force and just put them around the cave, like literally like this.
Yeah.
That's the whole song. I thought that was so fun to write a song about and to just kind of explore what that would look like and how to get that song across. And I think it literally was just like a really healthy just thing to be like, what if I don't write about something that's just like totally demoralizing to me? Like, just actually have fun writing a song for once. And that kind of snuck in there.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Well, I think you answered my questions. I had because there's the line of like seven eyes staring at me, and I'm like, wait a minute, seven eyes? That's somebody wearing an eye patch. Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, I just thought that was weird. I was like,
Got to throw in an odd number.
it's just weird. Yeah, 7 sounds better than 8. Like,
And then obviously, who are they and why are they hanging and lighting up the ceiling? But you've explained that.
yeah, I remember trying to tell Will about this song, and he just looked at me and was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And I was like, "In short,
In short,
this." And he's like, "Okay, send it. I guess do it."
yeah, coming off of White Lighters, like this is definitely where we need to be right now.
Yeah,
and I can imagine Will Putney just being like, "All right, dude, like, it's your record,
Yeah,
this is gonna be a deep cut."
right. And like, I don't know. I think our music kind of does that. Like, there's a lot of really heavy stuff. There's a lot of really serious stuff. And then like at the end of the day, we are just a dissonant rock band. It should be fun. And it's like, let's throw that in there too. I want to I've kind of done this with every record that we've done. And I feel like it makes for like a cool project where you start somewhere, kind of lay something out, and then you resolve it at the end. But like this record is so much just like in my mind, it was just the like Midwestern kind of Kentucky experience, like living kind of in a poor part of Louisville, growing up around, in the country that we were at that time with all of those things going on. And then all of the actual really interpersonal stuff that was going on. It was just a snapshot of like my lived experience is kind of this record. And there's highs and lows in it. And this one was like just one piece of like comic relief to kind of give myself a laugh, make myself feel a little bit better, just kind of also put that part of my personality in there. I really wanted to get that. I'm not just this depressive anxiety ball of, whatever. It's like, I like to have fun too.
Right. A little fun. I like climb trees.
Yeah, exactly.
Next up, Day Is Gone.
Yeah, so we're back in this shit. This one kind of is a direct, kind of a direct reflection on my struggles with drinking at the time. I was blacking out a lot, I was drinking a lot, and I was in another relationship at this point in time, and like it was not so great. It was not the most healthy relationship because we were both kind of struggling with that kind of thing. We were going out all the time, drinking all the time, and like it was highs and lows and stuff, but like all of the lows came from just like us getting too drunk and fighting about dumb shit. And it's kind of just that lived experience too, just being like, you know, how can you connect with anyone, friends, family, relationships, whatever, if you're kind of detaching all of the time? And that's kind of what that song is. Like, the day is gone. It's just night. It's just black. It's just, you know, don't remember anything. There's a line in there. It's like, I don't remember my nights. And it's like kind of a poignant line, but it's like, that's just for real. Like, I just,
right.
I don't know.
I like the line, I'm an empty promise, just passing off the blame. So I'm assuming that's, you know, obviously.
Kind of comes
I was
from that.
drinking. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I just got drunk, you know, like that whole thing.
It kind of comes from that too. Cause like, and it goes both ways. Like, anyone who struggles with that or and is in relationships with that, like, knows people like that. Like, that's what it is. Like, people that are kind of struggling, just getting trashed all the time or partying a little too much, even for whatever reasons. Like, I was trying to escape, obviously, just whatever was going on in my life at the time, and you can't count on people like that. Like, and I've was not accountable a lot, right? You know, I was just like not calling my family very much. I wasn't showing up to the things I needed to show up for in a good way. I was always hungover or something and forgetting this or forgetting that, losing this, losing that. Like, my phone's broke, my car key's gone. You know, just is kind of on it, always having an excuse for something too, because of whatever was going on. And it's just, in the passing off the blame thing's always like, well, you were doing it too. Like, yeah, it just kind of balls up that part of the world too.
Yeah. It's a crusher song though. Broadcast network.
Yeah. That's a weird one because the music is so weird. I remember being at work. We were demoing this one actually at home with Jordan. There's a video I have somewhere. I wish I could find it. But Nick is doing the song, and I don't think we had the ending totally fleshed out, or that part. I just get sent this video. I'm at work. I get sent this video, and Nick is shirtless, upside down on a couch with his guitar. It's a half-finished bottle of Benchmark right next to him. They're recording the demo of the song, and he's and I was like, this is going to be the best song ever. This is the coolest thing ever. And so when we were showing Will kind of the ideas for this song, he was like, this batshit crazy. This is insane. We have to record it. So that one was just kind of, I don't even remember exactly all the, like, what I was trying to talk about in that song. I think I was mostly just kind of harking on the whole, like, media thing. Yeah. Just a broad stroke media condemnation kind of song, but over that spastic shit.
Yeah, it's pretty much like, I was like, this is either on the nose, it's about TV and media.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
And, my first note is chaos.
Yeah.
And then I like the keep your voices chant, kind of where you get like the kind of the group, everybody in the room. The outro, is that an effect or is that a different recording? Like it almost sounds like off the phone or like just something different.
I actually can't remember what the outro is.
It's just you kind of singing like with a little bit of atmosphere.
Yeah. Okay. I just think we thought it sounded cool to have the voice kind of in that one, just because then it's leading into the last track,
right? Which is
yeah. So I think we just kind of wanted. Man, I haven't even heard Broadcast Network in a while. That's funny. I think we had that thing, and then I think in the studio we were kind of like, it'd be really cool if it was like a little affected and kind of led into the last song.
Yeah, it almost sounds like a recorder in the corner of the room. You guys are demoing it or something.
Yeah. It was just kind of funny because we actually had brought a tape recorder with me to the studio because there's two B-sides off this record that didn't make the record, but on one of them there's a whole like acoustic song that was recorded just on the tape, because we really wanted to do a lot of this with like tape effect sound. So like me and Johnny, one night in the studio, I remember, I think we were there for Halloween. So it's just so silly, but like me and Johnny on Halloween went and took the tape recorder to a graveyard and just kind of let it record for a second. Nothing happened. There's just like, there's a few whisperings like, did you hear it? did you get that? But we played a lot with this tape recorder. There's a lot of, like the very first sound on the record, that like kind of singing thing is the first sound ever recorded. We found that on YouTube. So then I recorded it on the tape, and then we put it in there. And it was kind of like this cyclical, like, this is the first song ever recorded at this very moment. This is the newest sound ever being, right now it's fleeting. It's a fleeting moment, but kind of tying it all back together. I really wanted to kind of like have that moment. But there's so much actually snuck all throughout the record. There's like weird little texture things that are snuck in. There's like in Kappa, actually, there's this weird unexplained noises in the deep ocean video that I found, and I like recorded all these weird like sonar sounds and stuff like that, and it's like you can't hear it really, but it's buried, like snuck in there. There's a couple little things like that.
I love how you can like poke fun at yourself in the way of like you've got all these grandiose ideas, and then you do them, and then you like years later you look back, you're like, yeah, I was just being
yeah, it's like, it's silly, it was like, cool. It was like just
got really high.
Yeah. I love that too, because I think some of the most like special stuff kind of comes from just the honesty of play. You know, just like wanting, because I mean, it's one thing to be just like so like wallowing in kind of the artistic expression of your grief or all that kind of shit. I could easily do that, but I think if I ever took on that role too seriously, everybody in my life would be like, shut the fuck. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm such a silly person,
right?
You know, like day to day, and I love that. And I think like, especially, I think a lot of people, when they go through a whole bunch of shit, they're like the funniest people you know, like the silliest people you know, because they're just like, I don't want to fucking be bummed out all the time. I could.
That's like we were talking about stand-up comedy before we start recording, and if you dive into like a lot of the stand-ups past, I mean, there's always some major trauma.
Yeah, and a lot of shit they're joking about is like pretty heavy,
right? And it's like people that are you know, grow up wealthy in wealth and you know have everything that they need, don't really come off very funny. But,
exactly. So I mean, I think music and comedy I think are so similar, where you're just like taking something and trying to turn it into something that other people can enjoy. And it's like, you know, sad music is incredible, but you know, especially with music like ours that's so high energy and so energetic, and so like there's big choruses like just instrumentally without me even having to do anything, that like I don't want it to be such a bummer all the time. You know, a lot of the lyrical content is pretty heavy, but like even like in Blemish, where the whole thing's just about anxiety, and there's like those weird lines and like anxious little gutter feel. What the fuck does that mean? I don't know. It was perfect. It perfectly encapsulates the feeling in that moment of the song. I was like, that's it. That's all it needed to do. It's perfect, and I don't know what it means, and it's great. Like, but I you know, I think that. I think it's important to do that. Like, I love to play music too. Like, I want to be able to say something deep and dark, whatever, all that kind of shit, but in a kind of off-kilt, kind of funny way.
Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, I think that, you know, when it comes down to music, you want to be like, yeah, this is going to be the biggest, craziest thing ever. Yeah. But then at the end of the day, you're like, nah, that's kind of silly. Like, as much as we love, you know, some of the more heavy stuff that we probably both listen to, at the end of the day, it's still silly. You know, like it's kind of.
I mean, even like bands like Every Time I Die, and you have like, they just do the cowbell for 2 seconds. Like, you know, they're dying laughing at that part in the studio. It's cool. It sounds great, you know, and you can take it seriously, but like, you know, they were like, ding, ding. That's hilarious, you know? So there's all kinds of stuff like that I think we try to sneak in, even in the most serious of songs. We try to
have a good time.
Try to be able to poke fun. Plus, we destroy each other on a daily basis, like constantly just laughing, poking fun at each other all day long. So like that sneaking into the records is like, makes perfect sense with our dynamic and personalities.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, man. Last track, Echo and Dust Part 2.
Yeah. So this one, I don't think this one changed a ton, like musically, but once Echo and Dust Part 1 had kind of gotten fleshed out and I got the lyrics kind of figured out, I was really able to kind of pull apart number 2 and get that where I wanted it. But so Echo and Dust Part 1 and 2 both kind of deal with like when you lose someone, you know, and there's like this wrestling with, so I was talking about religion a bunch in this record because I'm not, this is I think the point I was trying to make earlier is like I was wrestling with kind of not the concept of religion, but the concepts like within it. Like the structure, I don't give a shit about the structure at all. I'm just not really interested in the structure, but the basic thing that there is a connectivity between like this physical and outer realm spiritual and stuff is like, I do have a really romantic view of that. I really think that there's something to that, and I don't know what it is or how to explain it. But like lyrically, I try to wrestle with that concept a lot. It's in all of our records, like some form. And I think those 2 songs are like the most like direct, where it's just like physically you're gone, but in some time and space, maybe there's like a chance that not even our conscious selves might interact, but that our essence will swirl into the same whatever at some point, you know, like we'll be a part of the same thing again at some point, you know. And I'd lost a couple different people up to this point of the record too, like just family and stuff, and almost all of them unfortunately was like drug related, and then like obviously the incident with that relationship and stuff. So I was really struggling with that, or I just wanted there to be some chance of reconnecting, or just the hope for it, really. Even if it was just a thought experiment for me at the time, really, kind of where those 2 songs are bred out of. And I just kind of wanted to flesh that whole idea out the best I could within those. So it's like Echo and Dust Part 1 is kind of like the loss, whereas Part 2 is kind of the like after effects of it, you know.
Yeah, it's funny you brought that up now, is because recently I was having a conversation with my dad about, you know, he kind of said the same thing. He's not religious, but he knows there's got to be something going on, blah blah blah. And we were just talking about mortality and what happens in my day-to-day life, my day-to-day job. I see a lot of you know, where a elderly couple will be in a house, and then one day they pass away, and then how quickly the estate sale comes in, and how quickly the house is sold, and how quickly a new family's in the house. Right. Or recently there was a lady that passed away at an old folks home that one day, you know, it was a picture of her, and it said, you know, blah, 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 and she passed away, and this is, you know, where to send flowers. Yeah. But then within a week, the chili cook-off thing was back on the bulletin board. Yeah. And it's just funny how quickly, just how quickly things like pass, you know, because there's no mourning, there's no nothing. It's just like on to the next, the next, like, you know, the next family's going to get the house, the next person's going to get that room. And it's a constant cycle of where you feel like that, you know, every house should be a museum to somebody or something, but it just you know, time keeps on moving, all that nonsense.
Yeah. And like death is so small and normal when it's not close to you. Yeah. You know, because it just happens every day, all day long. And I think that's part of some of the stuff that's in the record too, where it's just like, we don't care unless it's directly like in your circle. You know, like you care and you empathize, and like, especially like when you're, like I was kind of going through this thing of like really looking at the world and kind of just having that devastating kind of image to deal with. But like really in your day-to-day life, in your small circle, you know, like it doesn't really viscerally affect you unless it's like super close to you. So like there's dealing with a lot of that all throughout the record, the macro and the micro. But what's crazy too, this kind of snapshot of like where I was writing this record. It's funny you brought up the the nursing home stuff, because I worked in a nursing home for like 3 years.
Yeah.
While we were working on this record. So I saw so much of that. Like I saw families like bring in people. I saw people who had been there forever and their families never show up. You know, I worked on like the dementia wing. I was a housekeeper, so I wouldn't do anything fancy, but like,
Right.
Still just like kind of seeing all of that happen and seeing these people living their lives in their bubble of this nursing home without not having a clue, caring at all about what's going on in the world. Because they don't need to, you know, they're just doing their day to day. So it was like this really weird dynamic being this young college kid in a, you know, rock band working in this environment and just seeing these two very different worlds kind of at once. And like, just to kind of double down on all the other stuff that's going on in the record, why it was so, I think, like important is like, well, then I had my heart surgery, so I'm dealing with my own mortality. My relationship had just broke down, but her parents owned the nursing home that I was working at, which is why I was so kind of in the know of what the goings on and stuff were. So like this record is such a weird snapshot into all of that. It's interesting to think about now. I haven't really thought about it like that in a while, but I think that's where all of this kind of bleeds out. And so that's kind of the whole record. It really felt really bleak at the time, but this was like our one chance to like do something, and we were going to get signed to a label and record this thing, and I just put it all out there. I just was like, here is my profile. Like, this is everything. Take it or leave it. And you know, people connected to it, which is really cool. I mean, we're talking about it right now, and it's been 2018. It's been like 7 years since that record came out, and people still talk to me about that record and particularly a lot.
Yeah, it's a good one, man. Just got to finish off this song. Obviously a banger to close the record, crushing riffs, like the ride cymbal that's kind of pops up into a little Pantera groove in there, man. I think I actually answered this question earlier. I was like, did you know that both songs were, you know, kind of a songs to combine? And we got that answer. But man, the way to end the record with the Reborn and the Ashes, you know, kind of screaming and stuff like that, man, it just makes for an incredible record.
Thank you, man.
So, I mean, you kind of said it there, but I mean, what does this album, you know, kind of mean to you?
Yeah.
In the scheme of it,
I think it's just a really, really accurate snapshot of my life at the time. Which I think every record is, you know, even records from people that like maybe don't attempt to do that. I think even that task, like to write a record that is also kind of telling. But that was exactly like what was going on. And I don't think I set out to do that, but my brain was just kind of going and just pouring out all this stuff. And this is the stuff that ended up on paper, ended up on record, and then I have to answer for it afterwards. And then it's like, I'm especially this far removed from it, like really proud of it. Like I'm proud of like what got put on paper, and I think it totally sums up like my life at that time and paints a perfectly clear picture of it too. You know, it's all there, like the good, the bad, the Kappa to get a laugh out of it even, you know, it's just like that guy at that point in time is right there on the page. And that makes me happy because, you know, it's very honest, even though it's steeped in trying to cover up all these things. But yeah, at this point, I'm just proud of it. I think I hope it continues to connect with people. I hope people listen to it. I mean, a lot of people, when they just find us, they're finding us because of the EP, and then they go back to two more records, and they'll hear this one, and they're like, oh my God. And that's cool. I'm glad. That's not a lot of people. I think their first, like, this was like our first real record, obviously, but like, I think people find bands' first record. It's kind of like, oh, they keep getting better. But this one, I think, is a really good starting point.
Yeah.
It really just captures what we're setting out to do artistically, like musically, and then like the people behind it, I think, is totally laid out there.
Another thing I like to do when we start wrapping these up, man, where were you like album release day? Do you know, did you go to the store or did you go on tour?
Yeah, we were on tour. I forget exactly where I can see the venue, but I can't remember exactly where it was. I want to say Texas, something like that.
It's probably a good stab.
Yeah. I can't really remember exactly where we were, but I remember that the label had like sent like a cake to the venue and like champagne, and we were on tour, so we had records with us, which was cool. But I mean, we were out for like a week before it, so some people got it a little bit earlier. But the day of, oh wait, okay, no, I'm lying to you. That happened, and that was cool. But the actual drop, like they were celebrating the record one of those days, and I think maybe somebody from the label was like around, so that's why that happened. But the actual day that it happened, we were in Seattle.
Okay.
And we were playing El Corazon, and it was like midnight was going to be, it's out. So it's really funny because we were on tour with Norma Jean, and the venue was closing because it's like, wait, hold on. Midnight Eastern, so 3 hours before. I think it was like right in the middle of Norma Jean's set, something like that. We all go to get a shot from the bar. We're going to celebrate right at midnight back home. We're going to take a shot. And we were going to take a shot while watching Norma Jean. It was going to be so cool to like have this full circle moment. So we all like that band. And we were on their first big tour, first record, all this kind of cool stuff. And we all have our shots, and we're about to go walk, to go sit to watch the show, to take it. And the bouncer is like, you can't take it out of this area. There's like a designated drink area. So we were like, oh, fuck. So, but we sat there, and I think Nick had his phone out, and right when it hit, midnight back home, we cheers, took a shot, and just kind of like, well, it's out of our hands now. It's out. I think the next night was the cake thing, and I think that had to have been like California or something, Portland or something, somewhere around.
Yeah, if you're doing like El Corazon, it's probably like Hawthorne.
Yeah, it was somewhere either California or I don't really remember. It was the next show, whatever the next show was. But I think it's kind of funny because that venue, El Corazon, kind of been there for some really cool moments, like the release of Empty Black, my birthday one year, and then I think the night that the EP dropped, we were there. We were there for that too.
Adds to your grunge lore.
Yeah, no, I love that venue. Every time we play Seattle, it's incredible, and 9 times out of 10 it's been there. So I love that place.
I've actually played there, so yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Cool. It's a cool place. Obviously you said Norma Jean. Any other tours from this album kind of pop up in your brain?
Yeah, we did. Norma Jean was the big one, and then we went out with Stray and Silent Planet, and Counterparts, and there was a couple different tours, but I mean, we were just grinding for a little while. It took a minute for us to like actually get into the touring groove. It was kind of like a stop and start. We would tour, and then it would take a second, and then we would tour, and it would take a second. But it was really cool to actually see. We'd done DIY tours basically by ourselves like for years, and finally getting to jump on these tours and do like pretty decent size things with bands that have all become like really good friends of ours. Was really cool to see, actually getting to go to a full packed room somewhere and having people sing echo back. Right. It's like, oh my God. Yeah, it was the coolest feeling ever. So when we do Prada in October to November, like Silent Planet's on that one too. I was like really, really excited to hang out with those guys again. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. So is this a kind of thing where, you guys are, your album's out, getting into the touring cycles and everything else, and then 2020 hits, and just...
Yeah, we were actually with Silent Planet on a different tour. It was the second time out with them. It was crazy. Like, the beginning of that tour, it sucks so bad, because like the beginning of that tour was going so well, and like it was seeming like we were crushing. And like, basically as soon as it started, it was like a weekend, and we started hearing about all this COVID stuff. And I actually make the joke a lot that I was like patient zero, because my dad's friend had went to China on a work trip in like December, came back and was sick for like a while, and then they had a band practice, and I went, and then we were all kind of smoking, and then on tour like a week or two after that, which I know that's not how that works. I would have got sick a lot quicker, but like still, that tour happened and it was like day 3. We were doing some shows on the way to the tour. We were going to meet up with the tour, and we played Billings, Montana, and I couldn't talk. Like I couldn't move. I couldn't talk. I was so sick. And they actually ended up playing that show without me. They did an instrumental set. It's the first and only time that's ever happened. Nice. But they played instrumental in Billings, and I was in the ER. And I remember they were freaking out at the hospital, and everybody had face masks on. And I was like, I guess everybody has strep throat like I do. Like, I had no idea. But yeah, then we went to the West Coast, and as we were coming back east, every city we were in closed down. And then it was like following us. So then when we hit Atlanta and we were supposed to go back to end the tour, we hit a wall. It was closed, and we knew about COVID and all this stuff was closed. And then, yeah, so it was weird because like the momentum was finally just doing the normal thing, and then it just flattened out. And we got home, and just like everybody else was like, all right, cool. You know, like next month, whatever. Because we had a bunch of stuff lined out for the rest of the year. We were working on a record, and yeah, it just kind of put a stop to all that.
You guys all got haircuts.
Yeah, we all got haircuts and stuff. It's actually really funny. I was looking at videos from the second record, and I thought Johnny had already cut his hair, but he hadn't cut it yet. It's still really long.
Nice. Well, man, Stereo Grief is out now. You guys are signed with Solid State. So, how's Solid State treating you guys?
Man, they're awesome. They're incredible. After the last record, we kind of had fulfilled our contract with Equalvision, and our manager Tom was talking to Adam from Solid State. He was like, "Hey, what do you got going on?" And he's like, "Well, Greyhaven's contract's up, so I'm trying to figure out what's going on with that." And Adam immediately was like, "I want that bitch."
Nice.
That's what you want. That's exciting. That's awesome. And yeah, basically from that meeting to our first phone call, and we, kind of had a meeting with him and talked in Denver or somewhere, and just he was so cool and just knew everything and was bringing up songs off the last record that were like not singles and weirder ones, like really dissonant stuff. And he was like, "Don't lose that." And he was like, "I like this," and was like bringing up lyrics and stuff. And I was like, so invested in how invested he was with us, and we weren't even worked together yet. And since we've been with him, with Solid State, they've been just incredible. Everything we've been wanting to do, and like our game plan of action for this year, like let's get music out, let's announce, let's go on tour. That should hopefully kick up more tours. Let's try to be on the road as long as we can, and then work on a record pretty quick, because we had planned on doing a full length before this EP, and then it just kind of worked out that Will was going to make some time just for us in December to kind of knock it out in like 10 days. So it all happened kind of fast, but I mean, and I couldn't be happier. They've just been incredible so far.
Yeah, like we talked about earlier, man, you got the Protest the Hero tour, which sucks that you guys like get off the tour and then 2 days later they're here.
Yeah.
Why can't you just, go over those in the next couple of days?
Yeah, no, that's also a thing. I would like to address the rumors here. We do love our city.
So yeah, Protest the Hero tour, and then the Devil Wears Prada. So that's the way to do the year, man.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. And then trying to finish up a record. About halfway through it, I think.
Nice. Are you just like demoing now and then gonna go?
Yeah, it's a lot of demos.
A lot of demos
floating around.
A lot of trying to find weird shit on YouTube to write about.
Funny enough, I did see like a weird vintage commercial on my phone the other day, and I was like, pretty cool little sound bites in there.
Good lyrics in there. Yeah. Well, Brent, man, this has been a blast.
This has been awesome. Yeah,
this has been a lot of fun. So thanks for coming on, and once again, man, check out Greyhaven, and thanks for coming on here. Talk to me.
Thanks, man.
KNOTFEST.com.